Five. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy New Year. You know, I've got my bells on. I'm going to do that for, I guess, the whole month of January. I'm so glad that we've made it through. May God bless all of you in 2025. I pray that you will have, what did she say? She sang strength, courage, and wisdom and joy, and the strength to climb every mountain. Don't ask God to move it. Just ask God for the strength to climb it and the wisdom to know how. I am Santita Jackson. This is AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. All my love to my AM 950 Radio family, and to all of you out there in cyberspace, on the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey y'all, how you doing? Like and share, like and share, like and share. I'm on Blue Sky. Who knew? That's right, santitajackson.bsky.social. Please meet me there. I'm beginning to build a family there. I'm so glad, but I'm still on X at Santita J and the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get right to it. You know what? It's 2025, and I know we just had the election 2 months ago. I know that. But guess what? The U.S. House of Representatives is up for election. They've got to have their petitions by the fall. We are in another election season. So the Democrats are now too. The Democratic National Committee, they're looking for new leadership. And a lot of people have put their hats in the ring. Some people are considering going into the ring. Even my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, I saw Congressman Ro Khanna has said, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, you need to do it. So he's exploring the possibility. He doesn't know what he's going to do, but he did look and see that at least as of yesterday, there had been no other Black people who were going to run for chair. So he said, no, there's something not right about this. And for the backbone of the party. And you adopted a strategy that really didn't make a lot of sense. Howard Dean, some years ago, said we need a 50 state strategy. 50 state strategy. What does that mean? That you run in every state, you run in every county, you run in every district, you run everywhere. And we should have learned something because between 2008 and 2016, during the Obama years, we lost more than 1,000 seats. There are various reasons for that, but part of the reason is that, I think President Obama's coattails were not very long. But I remember when Reverend Jesse Jackson ran, he said, when I win, you win. Somehow or another, we kind of missed that at that time. We were in another historic moment, and we were very protective of the first Black president. That's absolutely understandable. And many of us were just really, really we were desperate for him to do well. We were desperate for him to stay alive. So people felt that being critical was not the thing to do, although criticism is very important. Criticism helps you to grow. Criticism makes you right. Oh, I thought I looked great when I saw my mother about an hour ago. And of course, she called me just before we came on air here and she told me, you know what? I didn't like this. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't like this. Okay. So if you see me fidgeting with my hair, that's why. So, but she loves me. She wants me to be right. Carol Soskin, my sister
Absolutely.
from her mother, Mr. Carol Sanders, and Mike Buries, and all of my friends. So my point is, even as we criticize this party, it's because we're Democrats. And mind you, I'm the Democrat who does not mind the Republicans or anybody else. Then I'm an independent Democrat at that, because that really is my space. It is. I'm much more comfortable there. That having been said, what I want is for everyone to vote and for everyone to get engaged in the process. That's the only way that the American project is going to work. That's the only way we can stay a constitutional republic and not go back to being a constitutional monarchy. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. It means that we've got to get involved. So now, what kind of Democratic Party do you want? In a time in which more and more Americans don't want to be bothered with either party. The plurality of Americans, more than 40% are self-declared independents. When you ask independents, are you a Democrat or a Republican? They said neither. I'm an independent. Democrats lost a lot of black men, although the overwhelming majority of black men, Lavonia Perryman, Dr. Amar, and Ariel Gold, they voted for this black woman named Kamala Harris. More than 80% of black men voted for her. So don't put that loss on us.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. It's not true and it's not fair. But for those who chose not to vote for her, there are reasons. Roots Action had a postmortem of the 2016 election that sounded like it was written for 2024. Everything that they diagnosed in 2016 came to fruition in 2024 because no one is listening.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we want to talk about right now. Who should head the party? What should the party's message be? Because I'll tell you this, as I go to this tremendous panel, the Republicans get the message. They read the room and they go with it. Most Republicans, I'll let you in on a little secret, they didn't like Donald Trump.
Mm.
But guess what? Because he knocked out all of the establishment Republicans. He went boom, 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 pew, pew, pew. In 2016, hey, I watched every debate because it was hilarious what this guy was doing. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. And I was told, my brother Jonathan told me he's going to do that. He said, because he is a master of the game, he understands people. He's also out here in these streets. And people who have street smarts, you can't beat them. You can't. You can't. And he is someone who is a creature of the earth. And he took these high brow folks out one by one by one by one by one. And you know what the Republicans, and unlike what they did to Bernie Sanders, the Democrats decided to bury. The Republicans said, I don't like him, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him a bear hug. And he's going to be the horse that we ride in. We're going to ride across the finish line with him. And you know what else? We're going to try and rein him in. And they tried their best. They did a lot of things. That's what you see all this infighting about right now. But I'm giving you all this background just so that we can get this conversation started. Because I've got three people who are infinitely more intelligent than I, who really do understand politics. Dr. Alia Amar, social justice advocate. Indeed, she's really been a bridge between the African American, the Black American, that is, people who are foundationally Black American communities and the Arab American community, and specifically the Palestinian community. And we thank God for her. Plus, she's a brilliant scientist. Ariel Gold, Fellowship of Reconciliation, Code Pink. Watch her, everybody. She's one of these ladies who's going to show up at the Senate and House meetings and embarrass you. We love you. We love Code Pink, but she is also the first Jewish American to be the head of the Fellowship of Reconciliation. This is an organization that pulls all people of faith together, understanding that we serve one God. We have different paths, but it's one God, and we've got to figure out how to work together and come together and help save the world. Dr. King was a proud member of this organization. Really, it really was part of the ethos of his life. And Lavonia Perryman, of course, she's a veteran of the Jackson campaigns. The Jackson campaigns in 1984 in particular, they were not very popular for people to be a part of. And she was one of those who just came out and said, well, I am going to cast my lot with these crazy people. But she's an award-winning journalist, an award-winning radio and television personality, and writer and professor. And so I want to start with you, Lavonia Perryman, because she is also in Detroit. And Ariel Gold, who is in New York, but all over the country and all over the world. And Dr. Amar, who's here in Chicago, the place from which I am taping this show. I think what's happening in Michigan is really what's happening with the Democratic Party. It's what's happening there in microcosm is what's happening on the macro level.
I would agree. And thank you so very much for inviting me to be a part of the program. It's truly always my pleasure. And as I share with you and others who are listening to the show, the wonderful show, is that Michigan is an example. They talk about the battle state. Yes, it is. We are battling the internal mechanism of the party that most people love if they're Democrats. Mm-hmm. We have two battles going on. And the war is what we're dealing with in terms of the Democrats, the Republicans, and the independents. And when I was thinking about this, I thought about the reason that the generation that is really making a difference right now and who made a difference in 2024, they're saying the parties look the same to me. The messaging might be a little different. They tweaked it a little bit different. But if you listen close enough, they're saying the same thing. And they might not be doing the same thing, but one is a little slower on the uptake. And we have to call it like we see it. And if you've been on the ground at any level, and I'm going to use Michigan, for example. In Michigan, there is still a conversation going on today, January the 5th, 2025, in the Democratic Party is saying, no, we're going to appoint and anoint people who are going to run for office. We're not going to check with Ariel and Santita and the doctor here. We're not going to check in Chicago, New York, or the grassroots. We're not going to ask them, what is it that's on your mind? What is it that you need? What is your agenda? We're going to say, oh, there's a young man over here or a young lady over here, and they might be well qualified, nice neighbors, got college degrees and all that good stuff, and they look good on paper, but they never checked in with the community, the voices, the people that they want to support. And then they get into office as the Democratic chair, where we look at Congressman Jonathan Jackson, who would absolutely be ideal. Why do I say that? Not because I feel like I'm part of the family. It's because I know that his history and his work. See, this is where the rubber meets the road. His work has made a difference. It's about the work. I got a whole living room full of credentials and awards. But who are they going to serve? Who are they going to serve? What are they going to do for the people in my community? Just in my building alone. So I'm saying that we need to look at folk who have shown. I always tell people, when you're thinking about electing somebody or voting for somebody, check their history. What have they done before they received the title or asked to run for office?
But but let me ask you this, because there's something that, Ariel, before I pivot to you and to Dr. Omar, a lot of strange things happened in Michigan. Not strange, but very interesting. Let me put it that way. I don't want to characterize it in a negative way. You had this committed movement. You heard you heard so much discontent. I mean, because so many of us have been calling for a ceasefire. Indeed, Ariel Gold and Dr. James Zogby and others, Rania Patrice, and so many people came together. And with Reverend Jesse Jackson, we had this Mideast summit, peace summit, right in the middle of a blizzard. And hundreds of people showed up. Thousands of people were online. And we felt something, Ariel, right? I mean, we were like, there's something going on for people to come out in a blizzard. Because I saw you in Detroit, because I had to come up there to speak, Livonia, and I had to drive back in the snowstorm. I said, I got to get back to Chicago. And so it's in that context that you got more than 100,000 people, in 3 weeks?
In 3 weeks.
Uncommitted. And then you have Hill Harper, a bona fide Hollywood star, who's running for office, and he's offered $20 million to leave his Senate campaign to run against Rashida Tlaib. You got to help me to understand what's up in Michigan. What's up?
And the interesting thing about it, when I thought about receiving the call and someone is offering you $20 million, then you have to understand Michiganders, that's what we call ourselves, and other people around the country and around the world, if you're listening. Who is offering somebody $20 million just to remove themselves from a campaign? That tells you how important your vote is. That tells you how important the agenda. It tells you what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with just Michigan. We're dealing with a international political army of people who want to hold on to, as you have said, Jackson, power. And by any means necessary. And guess what they felt? It was worth $20 million. That's what they felt.
To take out a Congress. This is unbelievable. I mean,
a congressperson. You have to really stop and think about who Representative Tlaib is and what she was pushing at that time and continues to rightfully push. In America, we are not listening to people on the street, and people on the street are watching social media. They're getting their news and their information from various sources that are less and less under the control of mainstream media. And so for the first time nearly in my lifetime, what you really had were average Americans taking to the street to say, we don't like what we see happening in Palestine. We don't like what we see happening with the bombing of children, the starvation, and all of these things. But it was natural to democratic principles, to progressive principles. We said the same thing about South Africa. Most of us marched against apartheid in South Africa. Did we change our feelings about apartheid during the last 40 years? No. We knew it when we saw it. And so in Michigan, people knew what they were seeing, and Rashida Tlaib,
for the first time, people reacted to it because they had never seen it. Only when we saw South Africa that we reacted to it. Thank you, Winnie.
Absolutely. You remember the videos that we began to see at that time. You're watching police officers beat and tear gas small children. You remember the impact of seeing small South African girls and boys in their little school uniforms being beaten and placed into police custody, and then learning that they were being tortured. Anybody with a soul can stand up against injustice when they see it. And so the uncommitted movement was really trying to get the attention of the Democratic Party and align that attention with what was out there on the street with the protesters, not just in America, but throughout the world. And the Democratic Party decided to ignore it.
Which is what they do all the time. I don't understand. I mean, Ariel, we were at the convention. I mean, you had the Israeli hostage families represented on stage, and that was the right thing. But you wouldn't let the Palestinian who's on your committee, you wouldn't let her speak. I mean, and you don't speak at those events. You don't speak on the stage of the convention unless they put your speech in the teleprompter. Okay,
that's right.
They vet it. I know. I've been there. Reverend just speaks extemporaneously, so they know that, and that's why they turned the air conditioner on him to blow so that he would develop an asthma attack in 1988. Oh yeah, my father's suit was blowing like he was in a windstorm. So there is a picture of Jesse in a special edition of Life magazine. He has asthma too, with his body up against the grating until we could find a board, because they said we can't turn off the air conditioner. My father is looking like he's in a windstorm. My mother leaned over to me. She said they want him to sneeze, so he can't finish his speech. These are the things, and I'm giving it to you all because these are the things that they do. I mean,
and remember, this is internal. I want folk to hear her. These are internal situations. We haven't even dealt with the external. This is internal. These are this is the family, the Democratic family.
These are our allies.
Yes. Yes. Silencing their own. And then, how do you say, we're going to ignore the genocide against your people? We're going to vote for it. We're going to send arms and money for it. And we'd like you to show up in November and vote for us.
Yes.
The mental gymnastics of that, the calculus that went into that. There was only one Muslim that was allowed to speak at the DNC this year, and that was Representative Yusuf Salaam. And he was not speaking about Palestine, And so, when you treat portions of your demographic, of your constituency, with disregard, they disregard you. And that's part of the problem. As we look at new leadership, and I'll tell you one thing, that I support many, many things that your brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, does, because he does have the integrity and the lifelong presence in the movement to actually do the right thing. He may not always sign on everything you want someone to sign on or vote in the way, because he looks at a lot of nuance. But at the end of the day, that is a person whose heart is aligned with justice and with civil rights. I would say the same thing about Ro Khanna.
Well, and they get blocked. Jonathan has been blocked from business committees
Mhm.
because he's one of the initial signatories on the ceasefire resolution from Congresswoman Bush.
Mhm.
People, I mean, we have to understand how this works. Okay, so given that and that's why I'm so grateful to have this platform, because we are letting people know, we're pulling the curtains back, Ariel and Dr. Amar and Livonia, so that people can see, oh, when you walk into Congress as a Democrat, you get slapped with a 6-figure bill. Those are your dues that you got to pay every year to the party. Okay. So, and it happens, well, take it down by a factor of 10 on the state level. I mean, so you got to raise money. You got to work with all the people some people who want ceasefire, other folks who don't. These people have even let Haiti get on be discussed. I'm feeling some kind of way about that. I mean, what? But wait a minute.
The thing about it, right. I want to go into the messaging about what you just said, ceasefire. So my neighbors, they might know what ceasefire means, but my brothers on the block, they need to know. And they saw this, Ariel and Dr. and Sandy. They saw babies, children being slaughtered.
Yeah.
The messaging from the Democrats, they did not say, this is what's happening. The people are watching television and children are being murdered. Over here, we're talking about, we got a ceasefire. There was no connection between what they were seeing and what we were trying to say to them. We never spoke to them.
It's not just that, they talk to us like we're stupid and can pull the wool over our eyes. And honestly, Israel-Palestine and ceasefire is just one example. So today, Blinken, he's doing an interview with the New York Times, and he starts going on. He says, well, we couldn't criticize Israel because every time we did, Hamas would pull back in their negotiations. So it was strategic that we couldn't show any daylight because we had to get those negotiations. And I'm like, hello over here. Like, we know you don't care about Palestinian lives, but what hostages did you get released? They got
yes,
and they're still held hostage. So what do you mean you had some strategic success? And so that's like one example, right? We are watching dead babies, and we're here and we're watching the families of the hostages beg and plead. And then we have Blinken and what's his name? Anyway, just saying nonsense to us. And that's just one example, because it's the same thing when it comes to economics. It's the same thing when it comes to healthcare. It's the same thing when it comes to unions. Dr. Zogby was saying that, the DNC is going on now about what a great success the convention was.
Oh my God.
Like we won the election.
Wait, would you describe to the audience what he shared with us earlier today?
Yeah, they showed this whole video of like how amazing the convention was. It was just pure joy, and everybody did such an amazing job, and you did great, and you did great, and we're all like,
for 4 hours.
Who won the election? You can say all you want, but we know who won the election. So obviously, we didn't do so great.
Who won the election and who took the Senate?
Released the ceasefire done. We didn't get healthcare for all or end homelessness or anything. And they just want to be like, oh, but don't worry, we're strategizing. Don't worry, we're going to win the next election because we are so amazing.
Well, you know what? Even if you're not talking international.
Wait a minute. Chaparral said, but we lost.
Hello.
I mean, I'm not laughing at that. I mean, it's like, are you serious? You said it was for 4 hours? And this is what
it was Dr. Zogby said for 4 hours. He was there.
I was there with them. They did. They
Right.
just went on and on about
On
how
and on.
they had a whole video of the convention. And you watched that video, you would have thought we won the election.
Right.
It's just like it's just like a football season and you win one game and you lose the Super Bowl and then you have a party. What?
We didn't even win one
Latonia, you don't have to talk about our Chicago Bears like that.
And our Detroit Lions.
He's patting himself on the shoulder about what a great job he's done on this war in Gaza and getting the hostages released. And I'm like,
well,
they're still in the tunnels and babies are
They
dying.
need to check with the families in Israel. They need to check with. See, that's the point. Not only did they not have a conversation, or I'm only guessing. Let me say, I'm guessing. I'm observing that they did not have a conversation, an ongoing conversation with the families that are suffering and waiting on their loved ones to come home. But they're going to have a party and a celebration. They didn't invite the families who are suffering, who need to be hugged by the Democratic Party.
So
They
wait,
didn't invite the families that lost their children here
But let me
in
ask you this.
America over
But
this.
hold on.
That's right. They didn't invite the families in America who are living on the streets, who don't have health care, who can't pay their bills. They didn't invite them either. They had a convention of joy and wondered why America didn't vote for them.
And on top of it, this happened while lying to Americans with student loan debt about what was happening with the student loan program. And so, saying month after month after month, I've given all of this relief, and still having millions of people who are getting emails into their accounts regularly to say, hey, this lawsuit is restricting you from this. The SAVE plan is going to be taken away. And right now, most of those people have no student aid relief and are about to get hit really hard with some extra interest and some extra penalties. There are problems with lying directly to your constituency. I forget who said it, but they said, hey, who you're going to believe, me or you or your own eyes, right? People can see, people are smart. And if the Democratic Party wants to begin to win again, if the Democratic Party wants to begin to get people like me back on firmly, what they need to do is listen to us and allow us to represent our own voices fairly and equally.
Well, hold on. Chappelle just said, I just paid $8 at Walgreens for a dozen eggs. She said,
that's the truth.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, who is running to be the chair of the party who's talking about that?
Right.
Because there is a disconnect between
talking about Bidenomics and how successful economically they are, and we're in Walgreens looking at the prices of the damn eggs.
Right. And if you're successful for stock, that's beautiful, wonderful, and fine. You ask the average person waiting to get a bus to work in the morning how much stock they hold, and that'll tell you how much that's going to sway the leverage on their end towards their vote.
But who's running? That's my point.
But listen to what happened. Right. But listen what happened. Just think about the timing of the eggs. I'm going to use the eggs because we're talking to our people. The eggs. In October, everyone can hear right here, eggs were, I'm going to just say $3.99. Am I about right? $3.99.
Yeah.
The day after the elections, eggs became a issue. Eggs. And we're talking about it 2 months later, they're now almost $10. What I'm trying to say is that the leadership out there can maneuver, massage, and do whatever they can. They can find the hostages, they can.
Of course they can.
They could stop the bombing. They could international law in order to protect the populations whose land is being stolen and the people who are being subjected to genocide. Exactly, Ariel. We're all the same on this.
But see, the disconnect is we did that here. So I think that's the disconnect because we haven't made things right with the indigenous people here. I mean, I heard Dr. Richard Wolf talking about it, and it's kind of true. Because see, what we're not doing we are with 3 or 4 votes away from Hakeem Jeffries being the Speaker of the House.
Right.
So, I
Major.
mean, a lot of these races, if you really parse down, they were not won by wide margins. Or should I say, Democrats did not lose them by huge margins. They lost them by inches, millimeters even.
Right.
But they did not put any money in the South. The backbone of the Democratic Party is the Black vote. Black people, most Black Americans live in the South, and we're moving in droves. How
To the
is it
South.
that you're not going to put? But wait a minute. I mean, how are you not going to put money in Mississippi, in Arkansas? Wait a minute.
In
And there's more than
Georgia.
Black people there. How are you not going to do? How are you not going to do that?
Look, they put money into flashy ads. They didn't put money into people because it's not just the South and the Black vote. They also didn't put money into the white ethnic vote, into the working class vote, into the union vote. They put
Where
money
did it
in
go?
pockets.
Well,
Flashy ads.
that's a good question, Santita, because they had $1 billion in the last 3 months. But let's back up. Let's do the timeline a little bit differently, because we know that people who were seeing President Biden every day had concerns. Those concerns needed to have been brought to the fore by the party long before the American people became part of that equation and argument about who's going to run. If you have an incumbent and that incumbent is really not going to be capable of running this race and performing this duty, then it's the party who's got to pull that coattail and say, hey, listen, you need to step aside. It was grossly unfair to give Kamala Harris 3 months to try to pull off this sheer miracle when President Biden is the one that got us deep into these problems with war. President Biden was the one who was, running the economy in a way that looks good for the rich and bad for the poor. And President Biden was the one who didn't step aside until it was so late and had a 38% approval rating.
No, wait, he didn't step aside.
38%.
He was shoved aside. Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen asked him through Ruth's action to get out of the race and to, wait a minute, to fulfill your promise to be a transitional president. That's what he said he was going to be when he ran.
But it was after the debate. If the train has already been wrecked, don't expect people to ride.
No, I'm just saying his ratings were already just
38%
in the toilet. Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's it. And I mean, so no, really, and so now, because see, what's concerning me is this, and I need you all to speak to this. You have this 4-hour meeting that's on Zoom. You saw it, Ariel. You were there. They're congratulating, not flagellating, self-congratulating.
You did amazing. It was
and it's not speaking to any of these. They're not looking at Cleo Fields, who at 30 years ago was one of the youngest and first African Americans to be elected from Louisiana in a century. Brilliant organizer, president of student government at Southern University, came through the Jackson campaign, 21 years old, went to the state legislature. Brilliant politician. Then in his 20s, went to the House of Representatives. Brilliant. He got pushed out by the Landrews. Yeah, I'm putting it out there because they shouldn't have done that. And oh well. And then you know what happens? Well, he gets back in. The Democratic Party did not give a dime to his campaign, a proven vote getter.
Right.
When you know that you need every single vote you can. Senator Brown in Ohio shouldn't have lost that seat.
Right.
So I mean, so who's gonna step into the gap and make things right?
And then we're going into Trump. We didn't just lose this election. We have a second Trump term. And yet the Democratic Party's all joy and congratulations.
That's hard to believe. I mean, I believe you. It's just like,
And guess what? The public sees what you just said, Ariel. The public is seeing, they're saying, well, gee whiz, they're having a celebration over here, so they must not be upset about Trump. So maybe they're all, like people just said on the street, they must be in the same boat together. What's the difference? What is the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?
And that is the question. Yeah, that's what you nailed it on the head, Livonia, because people kept saying, what's the difference between these two parties? If you can't distinguish your platform, when the Democrats were representing social justice and strong unions and, building up the middle class, you could talk to people about that and get them on with the Democrats. But when people can't tell the difference between two parties, not only do they tune out, they start talking about third parties. And I'm sorry, people, but we're still in a two-party system. And there has not been a third-party candidate with any viable ability. Out of the Muslim community, we had a lot of support going into a third-party candidate. That candidate has run for 20 years, never won a single office, and still remained nationally, I think, at the 2% level. And so when people start saying, oh, let's get behind this third-party candidate, it's something that the Democratic Party needs to begin to listen to, because that means we're not satisfying you and we need your votes. These are more and more narrow elections each time. We need those votes. We need the people who want to be third party, but don't try to satisfy these people between April and November. Satisfy these people for the entire 4 years.
That's what we learned from. We learned that from Reverend Jackson, that you do not stop speaking to the people. First of all, you do not stop listening to the people, number one, and speaking to the people, registering the people, and educating the people. It is a year-round, day after day. If you're talking about being progressive in the political world, it is progressive. It's like you don't stop in the 6th grade and think I'm gonna graduate somebody and they're on their own from the 6th through the 12th grade. You don't do that. You don't leave them hanging like that. And the Democratic Party,
registering voters is what you're supposed to be doing
year round. Yes.
Okay.
When I looked at the DNC job description, I pulled it up. And part of is to outreach, registration. You know this, Ariel, and you do too, Doctor. It's basic fundraising, registering the people to vote, identifying candidates, educating the potential candidates. That's what a DNC Democratic chair is charged to do. Now, what has happened, one of the things, I'm going to leap right into where we all go. The playbook has changed. You just talked about it. Someone did. The media has a whole chapter in the new playbook. Media is no longer ABC, CBS, NBC, but no.
Right. That's
it's podcasts. It's StreamYard. It's iHeart. It's everything.
Right.
It's your neighbors talking to you on your telephone. The playbook has changed, and the Democratic Party is playing like it didn't change, but it has. There's a chapter that you're missing, Democrats, and we're saying to you today, take that chapter, rewrite it, make sure that it's a chapter that not only speaks to the people, but you put a chapter in there. What did the people say? How do we respond to them? I'm telling you, the media was complicit in this conversation.
Trump is doing that. Trump is listening to people. That doesn't mean he could actually act that way, but people know he's listening because he speaks to their pain. He speaks
to them. He tweets directly back
for you, and I don't want them to suck for you. And the Democratic Party just says the DNC is amazing, and you're exactly right. That's what they spent the money on, putting TV ads on. Putting ads on cable TV while the world is watching podcasts.
And serial,
they also did
endorsements, which was so ridiculous.
Exactly. That's where I was.
And so what, I mean, really, and I'm trying to find out from you, because you're involved in the process, Livonia and Ariel in particular, who's running, who's going to turn that train around? Because first of all, Kamala Harris should have gone on Joe Rogan's show.
That's right.
You can't be afraid to go into the lion's den. I'm sorry. You're in the mix. This is how this goes.
He should have been on every single show constantly, and she was not.
Yeah.
And
Anywhere there's more than 3, anywhere did we not learn in 84? I'm got to go back because you have to remember what we learned. And the party kind of forgot that chapter. Anywhere there's more than 3 people, you need to talk to them. 3 votes could make a difference. 3 million or 3 doesn't matter. You talk to people. And so I might not like the person got a third eye, but they got a show and they got 1 million viewers. I'm talking to the person with the third eye every day because they got a vote. Remember, 1 vote, 1 person.
But the leader is anyone who is running to head the party. Are they looking at doing that? Are they looking at the 50-state strategy? Because I don't know how you don't run everywhere all the time. Wherever they told Trump not to go, he went.
That's right.
Now we're not just sitting here saying, "Oh, we love." No. Look, I love a winning strategy, and you got to give the man credit for doing this right. And you also have to look at Kamala's team because she was running with people who didn't want to run with her.
And look,
it's been reported. It's coming out now. She had Biden's team. Biden's team were very warm. Biden is still he's hot. He's not happy about having been pushed off the ticket. He thought he was going to be inaugurated in 15 days.
He might still think he's going to be inaugurated in 15 days.
But she has it's unfortunate.
Well.
It's unfortunate.
This is how we got here. This is how we got here. The transitional president, and then his ego was just in there. He just had to run again. Couldn't look at his ratings. Full on, has no idea what's happening. Can't walk, put 1 foot in front of the other. And yeah, he might think he's going to be inaugurated. And that's how we got here.
What Ariel has a point. Let me say this I like Biden, just so you guys will know. So, but I want to say
no.
But guess what happened?
Let me say this for those of us who have known him and who have liked him. I've known him since I was a kid.
Yes, you did.
You saw his cognitive decline. Everybody saw it, and it was breaking your heart to see him.
And we saw his ratings. We saw his.
But guess what? Once again,
and if you let if you give your best friend the keys to the car, keys to her car when she's drunk, it doesn't have anything to do with not liking her. Then you're a fool too.
Or if you let grandma keep driving when the dementia has set in.
Right. I want to go back to Ariel. But Ariel, you make a good point. The people in the White House, I'm with you. The people in the White House, the people who supported him, the donors, all these folk who know and knew what we knew, they allowed, I'm just going to say, and family, they allowed him to come out for a debate. And when he walked outside, he was white as snow. You knew there was something wrong. And that's a disservice to America when they allow this man.
The ratings said it before then. So the fact that we let it get that far, not we, but the fact that the Democratic Party and the White House and the folks running let it get that far, which is how we ended up with a coronation.
It was wrong.
Etc.
There's a difference between Biden and FDR. You know, you can have a president who has certain limitations, but if that president is cognitively capable and is really able to lead, the people will continue to support that president. But what you don't do is push that president out there with the people who are still largely unaware of what's happening in a situation that will highlight that moment for him.
That's right. That's right.
Because
and that was based on people
it wasn't like he was running against a great candidate.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's running against a man who you are seeing more frequently in court than you are seeing in any other space. To lose in that situation is something that nobody should be having 4-hour meetings to, have a celebratory party about how good things went. Things went bad.
Look,
and things will continue to go badly. Democrats don't get that message themselves.
And that's what concerns me about who they might be, who they are inclined to put in who they're inclined to elevate to the position of chair.
That's
Because
right.
if we are going to continue with these falsehoods and misrepresentations
Mhm.
after November in 2025, what are you doing? They floated Rahm Emanuel's name, for heaven's sake.
I
Those
heard.
of us, Laquan McDonald was an international issue.
Exactly.
Shots in a cover up. Are you serious?
It's more of
we're
the
gonna-
same.
what,
It's just
what you haven't mentioned? You all are not. You're not. What are you? How are you going to have a party where black people are your spine,
Mhm.
and you don't have a black person who's running until Congressman Jackson puts his hat? He didn't put his hat in the ring. Other people did. Ro Khanna did. Congressman
Mhm.
Khanna said, "Hey,
run, Jonathan, run.
run,
Mhm.
Jonathan,
And they
run."
and they try to set you up for failure. They asked you at the last minute, overnight, in the dark. Spooks at the outside the door. They asked, and then they say, "Okay, work a miracle." I mean, surely, I
And
might
the
say,
first
Jackson.
forum's virtual. They're not even letting it happen in person. And Dr. Zogby was saying it's not going to be a forum.
Look,
Everybody's like
as a
Mhm. It's the same garbage.
as a former deputy spokesperson for Congressman Jackson, I'm going to say this.
Oh.
If you want somebody who gets pulled in at the last minute, who is capable of doing the job and maybe looks a little bit like an underdog to actually step in and win, don't think about what happened to Kamala Harris, because Jonathan Jackson is a different animal entirely.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Jackson can step in at that juncture when there's a vacuum, and he can pick up pace and lead as well as, or frankly, better than anybody who could have been considered a year ago. I would back that brother any day of the week, because he did it here in Illinois. In Illinois, when he came into the race, it wasn't him saying, oh, I'm gunning for this job. It was, hey, there's going to be a vacuum of leadership. And he beat 17 people who had started running before he did. So never doubt on that end. And why would he be a good leader? He'd be a good leader because he understands the people from the street to the boardroom to the halls of Congress to the presidency. That is somebody who has been educated for years on how to get this done. So you want to back a winner, don't worry about when he steps into the race.
But but I will say this, hey everyone, fully disclosed, for those of you who don't know, Congressman Jackson is my brother. Do I think he'd be an excellent chair? Absolutely. It would be hard because he's being pulled into the race late, and mysteriously now you have some other black candidates, which is fine. That's fine. All I want is for the people for whom this party is to speak. I want us to win. We have growing poverty in America. Who can afford, your children need protein. And egg is a pure protein. You know that better than I do, Dr. Amar. Who can afford $8 for a dozen eggs?
Well, that's why in the 2022 campaign for Representative Jackson, we were going for guns, gas, groceries. That was our platform, guns, gas, groceries. But look, he pumps his own gas. He thinks about the price of gas. He talks to people, regular people. I'm sick and tired of these politicians who don't understand what the price of gas is. They haven't had to put a load of laundry into a machine in the last 30 or 40 years. Talk to me about the person who's actually living a real person's life and has encounters with day-to-day people. You walk in that Chicago neighborhood that he represents. The people know him. The people come up and talk to him. But more importantly, he seems to know everybody by name. And that same type of energy, that same type of caring is what we need to have come back into the Democratic Party. But we need something else. We need, and Santita, you and I have said this before. Your parents changed the world for us. And the world has begun changing in a direction that is counter to a lot of that messaging. And we've got to get it back. Who's going to get it back? Some of the new people with that beautiful new energy, that driving energy that they have, and some of the older, more seasoned civil rights activists who understand the lay of the land and what is at stake. And if we don't have that, well, maybe there's more of this third party voting that's going to happen. But what's
I
not,
promise you,
We got to fight for that. We got to
Dr.
fight for that.
Amar,
This
it's
is
going
our
to-
party. This
Well,
is our
900
party.
Ariel, 900,000 fewer Democrats voted in New York.
Mhm.
I mean, that's 1 million people.
Mhm.
Something.
A million people saying they don't believe.
There's a disconnect, and so the candidates that I have heard, I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Dr. Jim Zogby,
Mhm.
with all that he has put into the party, should not be running for vice chair at this point. He should be chair of the party.
So
but
true.
For this, that, and the third, a lot of it because he has represented 10 toes down the downtrodden and the Palestinian.
Yes.
Oh, well, he's a problem. Well, then y'all got problems then.
Mhm.
Because you're supposed to be representing the Palestinian is a metaphor for the Jew in the Holocaust
He
78
also-
years ago.
he
I mean,
champions
look, we have all been
the
under the
He
boot.
also represents the working white vote.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, wait a minute. And the black people he stood with as we were running president in 84 and 88. Now, hold on. He's been everywhere. How is it that the people who bring the people to you continue? I'm putting you on Front Street. I only have a couple of minutes left. Livonia Perryman has been getting out the vote, shaping messages for 40 years. After 2008, she couldn't get a contract.
That's true.
From 2008 to 2016, we lost 1,000 seats.
True.
We haven't done a post-mortem on that. How is it that we lost 1,000 seats when we had at least Obama got so many votes? So what's the disconnect?
Start talking to the people. No. Start listening to the people. The people are sick of being talked at. Talk with and mostly listen. And the other thing is, I understand the importance of money and lobbyists and all of that. But at the end of the day, a lobby doesn't vote. A person votes. You go talk to that grandmother who begins to say to her grandchildren age 18 and above, did y'all get up and vote today? We got to get out there and vote because this, and this is at risk. Educate people within the community about what these elections mean to them, but listen to them because that's what that election is going to mean to you.
Well, ladies, boy, whenever I get you ladies together, boy, we have a shindig. And folks we are going like this. But that's what I love about you. And I just thank God for restoring your health, Livonia Perryman. Oh, Ariel Gold, I'm so glad you are back on your feet. You have no idea. And Dr. Amar, thank you for keeping us healthy in our minds. But but I really need about 30 seconds from each of you. Because I think we got to continue to pay attention to this, and we need to continue to sound the bells, if you will, on this race. Because I think, Ariel, Livonia, it's the 10th or the 11th? The process.
Yes, right. There's a DNC meeting that's actually going to take place by Zoom this week coming up. And then next week, there's going to be an in-person meeting, DNC, in Detroit at the Book Cadillac Hotel. Am I right, Ariel?
Yep.
Because I've been hearing that they really don't want people in Congress because, Congress has obligations. I'm like, but you all need somebody with a high profile. See, the president doesn't do all the work. The president has a staff that does work, and then you get directed to. I'm like, y'all need some people who excite folks. You buried Bernie. If there was a rumor that Bernie was in town, 50,000 people would show up looking for him.
But guess what? They wanted to be quiet and silent so they can pick the people that they want to pick for the positions. The silence is purposely put in place.
So let's not be silent.
Right.
This is our party.
That's right.
Our party. It is not the consultants' party. It's our party. And so it's our job to shape it up.
That's right. There's a young man named Al Williams who is running for chair, first time Black man chair for the Michigan Democratic Party. There's a sister named Tashana Gill who is pulling together the 90% of the women who were Black who voted. She held a meeting. She calls on them every week with a strategy and is going to the convention, the state convention, with an agenda and with membership from the women that voted in November. They are coordinating membership that they're going to put on the table, say that here are the women who are part of the Democratic Party.
Are they doing any outreach? Well, I mean, I literally have less than a minute here. Are they doing any outreach to the Arab American community?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Without question. You can't do it in Michigan without the Arab American community. You really can't do it without the people in Michigan or in metropolitan Detroit. You really can't.
Yeah. Well, you know, because I think we have to grow up in our politics and understand.
Yes.
Reverend Jackson said 40 years ago, you know what, you're all right, but your patch ain't big enough. That's why we have to quilt these patches together. We had a Palestinian sister who came over to our Rainbow Push headquarters yesterday for our Saturday morning meeting. And she had a dress over her embroidered Palestinian tunic. And she said, my mother said, what are you wearing? What is that? And she said, oh, I didn't want to offend anybody. My mother said, baby, you don't have to hide here.
No.
But you come, no. You're with family. So you come here. And that's what we're going to do. Because nobody will save us, for us, but us. My father said that 50 years ago. And we have to grow up and everybody drop all of these barriers because they are false. Nobody has it all figured out. Nobody is completely correct. We're all a little right. We're all a little wrong. Some of us more right than others. Okay. I get it. But we're not going to win unless we reconcile, and have a fellowship over that. We've got to do that. We've got to. And we need to find out who's running to be chair of this party, because you know what? The life of the party depends upon it.
Not only who's running, who they want to win.
Well, oops.
We need the whole game plan.
Is that another show? I think it is.
Yes, it is.
No, I'm very serious, because you know what? Who's running and who they want to win. Didn't we see that with Bernie? And we saw that with Biden.
Right. We have to know the plan. We have to do reconnaissance.
Okay.
We have to do that and understand so we can have an agenda. So we can do what you said, win. I want to be on a winning team.
Well, we're on a winning team. I just need to get the right people in place. You know, y'all can't get all these.
We want to be on a team that does the right thing. And the right thing isn't that hard to figure out. The right thing is to bring social justice to all people, to push for equality, to push for diversity rights, to push for workers to make not just a livable wage, but a wage that helps them and their families to grow. The right thing is to stop putting people in so much debt in order to go to college that they can't afford to retire. So if you put me on that team, I'll vote for that. But the rest of the stuff is kind of nonsense. And that's what people are sick of.
And you know what? Because debt makes you compliant, just like lowered wages and coming in on a visa where you're too scared to really voice your opinion. Well, see, they want compliant people, because compliant people are enslaved people, and enslaved people are managed, not governed. So we need to get real about what the fight that we're getting from the bottom and the top. You got the tent partnership for refugees at the bottom. You got H-1B visas at the top. Everybody's getting squeezed. Enough. And if the Democrats don't speak to that, they are not going to get the young people. They're not going to get the progressives. They're not going to get a lot of people.
No, because every 4 years, Jill Stein is going to show up and tell a lie and take her 2%, and a few other people are going to do the same thing. And the party is not growing. When you talk about a million voters being lost in New York, the party is not growing, it's shrinking because the people aren't believing the garbage that's being peddled to them.
Well, when you push out Cornel West, when you push out Robert Kennedy, I mean, look, they could even have a carve out for Jill Stein. That would be fine with me and Marianne Williams. And you could have carve outs for everybody. Let them run. Put them
Oh,
on the
Williamson,
stage.
right.
They're going to run, they're going to run. But what I'm saying is they're picking up those small percentages of voters because they're saying the things that those voters
No,
want to
we're in
hear.
agreement.
Yeah.
I'm saying big tent,
Integrate
bring
it.
every
Integrate it.
bring,
Integrated.
bring them in, because at the
Mhm.
convention, that's when you reconcile.
Exactly.
See, Reverend didn't do what Ted Kennedy did in 1980. He didn't bust up the party, and he could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that will not be my legacy. That will not be our legacy.
Mm-hmm.
We will leave unified. And even though you all have mistreated me and you have disrespected my voters, well, I've taken the hit so that they could move forward.
Same
And that's
with
what
Bernie.
he did.
Same with Bernie.
And that's
Bernie was
no, it's
pounding that
because he came
sidewalk for
out of the
Biden
campaign.
and Harris. Same with Bernie.
I mean, while he's taking hits from
Absolutely.
he's taking hits from his supporters. They're saying, "Oh, Bernie, you let us down." I'm like, Bernie's in Washington. He's
Yep.
an elected official. He has skin in the game. You don't.
Right.
He's got a whole lot of people that he's got to work with.
And
Enough,
he's showing
everybody.
up with integrity, because the same
That's
thing,
right.
he doesn't want to break the party apart. He wants us to win.
Yes.
And win with integrity. So leave
Yes.
Bernie alone.
Absolutely.
Leave him alone.
Yeah.
He's doing what you ought to be doing. You ought to run with no money,
Mm-hmm.
and you ought to go on and say, you know what, I'm going to work with you. Even as it's I'm going to work with you. Enough. I love you all, everybody. Oh boy, we always get really wound up. I love you. It's the Santita Show, AM 950 Radio. We're out. Next hour, we'll talk about some more of this. Love you.